Hello everybody, I'm Burt Wilson and this is Ancient Wisdom for the 21st Century. Thank you for being back here with us once again. Well, we had the creation of the universe last week. Now we're going to show you how the universe unfolds from that point where the cosmos created the universe and the universe exploded into something. And now we're going to show you what happened after that, and we're going to get right to it after this. Okay, we're back. And from this point on, we will concern ourselves with our own universe and how it unfolds. Even though all the universes are different, they unfold in the same format as ours, the details varying as to a universe's essential nature. Just as the planets in our universe are diverse, so are all the billions of universes in the cosmos. Neither does one universe come ready-made, that is, all the suns, galaxies, planets, and stars which we see in place now were not there in the beginning. Neither were we. Whether it's a garden plant or a central nervous system, there is a format for its creation, and everything needs time to evolve. I'll guarantee you that. There is an underlying matrix to our universe that provides the overall pattern for the creation of things. It is quite unique and therefore takes a bit of getting used to. But when you learn it well, you can see the whole logic behind it and come to understand that it couldn't be any other way. Thus, the first thing we must learn about our universe, even before anything is created in it, is that at the time of conception, when that point of light appears in primordial chaos, it unfolds into seven, count them, seven, differentiated planes of psychic energy. Each of these seven planes, or realms you can call them, will exist in different gradated states of vibration. Vibrations of what? Of psychic energy. This sevenfold division will be the foundation of the universal format of creation. It means that the entire universe we live in will be of a septenary nature, and each created thing within it, including human beings, will consist of 7 dimensions of gradated levels of psychic energy, from the physical plane that we are on now up to the highest ethereal realm at the outer reaches of the manifested universe. Now, the septenary makeup of all existence prevails throughout our universe, everywhere, which our universe is really a small cosmos. And also in each human being it prevails, each person being a miniature universe. Now, since the ancient wisdom refers to the 7-tiered energy realm as a heavenly man, the man, being the demiurge of the 7-principled body of a human being, is known as the earthly man. Now we can see the truth of the scripture that pronounces man as being made in the image of God. The septenary universe is a staple of the ancient wisdom, and one must marvel at the logic and necessity of it, because this is not only how the entire universe unfolds, it leaves a vivid trail whereby the human consciousness can find its way back to the source. Although Madame Blavatsky was the first to publicly proclaim these 7 realms in the secret doctrine, she didn't just make them up. They are part of the ancient wisdom and were given designated names centuries ago in Eastern teachings. Each name represents a definite aspect of psychic energy that sets it apart from the level above as well as the level below. Even though these levels appear to be different, they are all collectively one, seamless, each level being a part of the whole. From top to bottom, The names of these 7 levels are Atma, Buddhai, Manas, Kama, Prana, Astral, and the objective, our physical plane. Now here is a linear example of how these 7 planes are situated, which also gives their attendant names. Each of these planes of being has its own distinctive aspects, yet functions in a unity with all the other planes. Thus it is very important for students of the ancient wisdom to learn the functions of each plane and its interrelationship to the others. Since the septenary universe is the foundation of all existence, it contains the whole science of life, and studying this universal life science will provide a true perspective of the oneness of all life. So let's start now with the 7th plane, Atma. Atma is that transitional plane which exists between infinity and the manifested cosmos. It is an ethereal plane which contains the very highest form of psychic energy in manifestation. The energy is so high and so refined that nothing can ever be embodied on this plane. This is the plane of pure creative fire, the most appropriate metaphor for God. Its substance is likened to that of a divine essence which, because of its fluidic, plastic nature, will permeate every atom of every created thing in all other planes in the universe. Thus, everything is held in oneness within the universe. Now, even more significantly, Atma is the divine essence of God in all of us. Because it's in each atom of the universe, it's in us. That which the ancient wisdom refers to as the God within, and that's why. This divine essence is continually exerting an influence on our consciousness, urging us to recognize and move our spiritual being upward toward God consciousness. Since all created things live and move and have their being within the universal realm of this plane, it would not be wrong to call this realm the plane of God. Now let's go on to the next plane down. This is the plane of Buddhai. Now Buddhai means light, spiritual illumination. It is the Buddhic plane which is the vehicle of Atma in universal manifestation. Thus, if Atma is the divine essence of God, Buddhai is the light, the substance of the essence of God, manifested as a thing. As such, it is also known as the Son of God. The Buddhai principle is also referred to as flame, which of course is the physical manifestation of the invisible divine fire of the Atmic plane. Thus, if Atma represents the God within, Buddhai represents the Christ principle in us, or the Son of God, which is our vehicle of advancement on the spiritual path to enlightenment. Now you see where the church used these things, but in a wrong way? Therefore, Atma and Buddhai have the same relationship to each other as God to the Christ principle and as fire to flame. Now, because Buddhai is light and also the Christ principle, this is where we get the concept of Christ being the light of the world. This does not mean Christ as the person of Jesus, but Christ as a spiritual principle, an anointing, actually. The combination of the 7th and 6th principles, Atma and Buddhai, make up what is called the human monad, which contains the seeds of the spirit, the spiritual core of each human soul. This monad is an eternal principle. The Buddhic element represents our higher ego, or our immortal individuality, while the Atmic element represents that divine essence of God. When we complete our spiritual path, our higher ego, Buddhi, will absorb the divine essence of God, Atma. Accomplishing this, we become one with God, that is, God consciousness. Lastly, every atom in the universe also has at its center a monad composed of the Atma and Buddhi principles. But since Atma is a divine essence and Buddhi is a fine substance, they are considered metaphysically as one unit, the two in one. The next plane, further on down the ladder, is, this is, by the way, Jacob's ladder, is the plane of Manas. Manas is the plane of universal mind and cosmic intelligence, often referred to as the cosmic oversoul. It is Manas which is the mind principle, and its function is to carry divine essence of the Atma Buddhi monad to the lower planes of being. That is why the terms universal light and universal mind are actually interchangeable. Manas permeates, along with Atma and Buddhi, the entire universe as higher thought. We tap into this higher thought when we meditate. It is an aspect of Manas that determines our individuality and separates us as unique individuals from other human beings in manifested existence. This higher triad of Atma, Buddhi, and Manas is referred to in the ancient wisdom as the higher self. Now you know what it is. This as opposed to our lower self, which is made up of the three lower aspects, the prana, astral, and objective planes. If we are able to discipline ourselves and keep our minds constantly on these higher spiritual levels, we will be able to release these higher energies within us and raise our Christ consciousness upward. But if we get too involved in the materialism of life, our consciousness will remain undeveloped and our spirit will simply stagnate. Now, the higher realm of the fifth plane is the home of the Akashic records, where every thought and action in the universe is kept by the recording angels, also known as the four lords of karma. Since the functioning of the entire universe is based upon the magnetic forces of attraction and repulsion, all that is thought, said, or done in a universe can be recorded magnetically. This is the esoteric basis of the biblical concept that even the hairs on your head are numbered. The fourth plane is kama. The term kama means desire, so this is the plane of desires. It is the middle plane of the seven, thus it is indicative of a kind of pivotal transitional plane between the higher triad and the three lower planes which make up the lower triad. Since desires are also thoughts, the way we think and the quality of our thoughts has a huge bearing on our spiritual development. That is, are we thinking on the higher planes of life, drawing down from them, which enrich our spiritual being, or are our thoughts directed downward to the lower planes, thereby anchoring our being in the immense indolence of materialistic life? Now it can readily be seen that the plane of kama is not only a pivotal plane, but represents a kind of line of demarcation between the higher planes above it and the lower planes beneath it. Thus it divides the tendencies of thought of the lower animal man from those higher proclivities which mark the spiritual man. This is the esoteric basis of Descartes' comment, "I think, therefore I am. As you think, are you?" Thus it is entirely through the discipline of one's thoughts that one raises one up on the spiritual path. Now the third plane, the third from the bottom, is the plane of prana. Prana is the manifested life principle or life force which animates every atom of the objective universe, animal, vegetable, mineral, and human. It is subjective in manifestation and is similar to the principle of vitality. When a physical object is destroyed by burning, the atoms of prana are released and instantly rejoin the subjective cosmic mass, ready to be embodied again in something new again. Prana is limited mostly to the functions of the brain, while manas embraces the functions of the consciousness. It is this pranic life force which takes us precisely where we direct it. That is, if directed into the higher realms, it will fill us with a store of psychic energy and replenish it when it is used for purposes of the general good. If it is directed into mundane, brutish, or selfish actions, it will provide us with a lower animal-like energy which relegates one's spirit to the lower planes. This is why Buddhists uphold the golden mean, advocating that too much of either extreme is detrimental to our consciousness and can throw us off balance on the spiritual path. Now we come to the second plane, the astral plane, the one immediately above the physical plane. The astral plane is that plane which is closest to the physical or objective plane. That portion of the astral plane which is nearest the physical is called the lower astral, and that portion which extends upward is known as the higher astral. Now, each human being has what is called an astral body, which is an invisible duplicate of the physical body. It exists inside the physical body, and when we die, it is released onto the astral plane. On the astral plane, one does not suddenly become enlightened to the mysteries of life. One brings to the astral plane only what one has acquired on earth. That is, one can only reap in the astral plane what one has sown on earth, good, bad, or indifferent. If you're a dummy here, you're going to be a dummy there. Those who go to the lower astral will not move upwards until the magnetism of their earthly desires has been played out and their astral bodies subsequently disintegrated. Murderers, rapists, suicides, drunks, drug users, etc., all go to the lower astral plane when they die. Because of their depraved life, their auras are coarse, and when they emerge onto the astral plane, even though it's the lower astral, their auras will literally burn like a flame touching a cobweb, because of the higher vibrations they find surrounding them there. This constant singeing of the aura is where the expression burning in hell comes from. Now, people who die in accidents and have no spiritual understanding will not know they're dead and will wander around in their astral bodies until such awareness comes over them. It is the lower astral plane that so-called spiritualists, mediums, and channels mostly contact. And though they think they are talking to some higher wise being, they are only making contact with lower astral entities who are trapped there and find delight in impersonating some higher being or even God and or Jesus. Thus they can vicariously experience life through their earthly channel. They use the abandoned astral bodies there, which still have memory banks. That's how they can imitate somebody. Now, the objective plane is the material physical plane where matter is densest. It is the plane we are on now. Mere spirit and matter are as far removed from each other as they ever will be. Still, they are one in essence. Got that? Although everything in physical manifestation is objectified on this plane, all of the other principles from the 6 higher planes are also present within each created thing, human or otherwise. Often the 5th principle is undeveloped in man, and he is therefore prone to act like an animal. Now, the objective plane is also known as the plane of appearances, because there is more going on invisibly on this plane than can be seen with the human eye. Its most notable feature is that spirit and matter are separated to their fullest extent, complete opposites, but this too is only an appearance. In actuality, the visible and the invisible are still one, always conditions of each other. Thus, the material life we see around us is nothing more than spirit imprisoned in a dense material body. This is why the ancient wisdom has always cautioned its students not to judge anything by appearances. Manly Palmer Hall, the great American metaphysician, one of my teachers, and founder of the Philosophical Research Society in Los Angeles, where I taught, he put it this way: wisdom lies not in seeing things, but in seeing through things. Now, several writers have expressed these same concepts. The French aviator and writer Antoine de Saint-Exupéry hinted at the invisible reality in his book, The Little Prince. Have you read that? It's a great book. He wrote there, "What is essential is invisible to the eye." He was using the spiritual aspect of the feelings of the heart as a metaphor for all the invisible forces which we ignore simply because we can't see them. Thus he is saying that if love exists, so can many more unseen energies that we aren't generally aware of, and these are more spiritually essential than what can be seen. We will also find in this unfoldment of the universe the seamless blending of the implicate and explicate orders which physicist David Bohm, who died in 1992, employed to describe the wholeness of all being. Bohm's quantum theory portrayed the universe as a whole movement in which there was a deeper invisible reality behind all visible existence. Whether he knew it or not, Bohm's holographic universe, that has become known, is the closest any scientist has ever come to paralleling the metaphysical actuality. Surprisingly, the poet Edgar Allan Poe received a burst of inspiration in 1847 and produced a unique book called Eureka, I Have Found It. Poe described the metaphysics of his book as having come to him in an instant flash of intuition. In the first chapter he writes, "My general proposition, then, is this: in the original unity of the first thing lies the secondary cause of all things, with the germ of their inevitable annihilation." That's expanding and later going back down to an atom. Here Poe, he accurately describes the unity of the diversity of all created things, what he called the design of variety out of unity, and their ultimate dissolution back into a single atom. It's quite a book. Long before Poe, however, there was the Greek philosopher Heraclitus, who lived in 480, died in 480 BC, who thought all opposites were really extremes of a singular oneness. He described the universe as a unity of fire, writing, "It takes various shapes just as fire, when it is mingled with different incenses, is named according to the savor of each." He writes that all things are in flux, constantly changing, but with everything dissolving into a seed or atom at some future end. Now let's take a look at water as an analogy. Now, if cosmic energy were water, the 7th, 6th, and 5th planes would be steam. The 4th, 3rd, and 2nd would be liquid water, and the 1st would be ice. But it would all still be a single element, H2O. You see, there you have mind, body, and spirit in all three. This is another visual reinforcement of the master key to understanding the foundations of existence. That is, everything which evolves from the infinite transcendental source will always be a multi-leveled single element in manifestation. Now, if we could only emblazon in our minds the fact that visible matter is only densified spirit, and ethereal spirit is just highly refined matter, and that all is truly one, we would be able to completely change our thinking from presently understanding only 1/7 of the universe around us. We would change it to a spiritual synthesis of all existence. This is why, as a people, we are still ignorant of who we are, why we are here, where we came from, and where we are going. These 4 important questions are not just some fantasy of the imagination, but are actually invitations for each of us to find the answers, because the answers do exist. It's hard to prioritize one's thinking if one does not believe these questions have answers. It takes a change of approach to one's life, a change of heart, a willingness to let go of the popular falsehoods and investigate the truth of the ancient wisdom. This is what we are always trying to do with this TV program. The important thing is that the existence of successively higher planes in the septenary universe is our assurance that the higher we can raise our own consciousness through our own efforts by means of our spiritual striving on earth, the closer we come to the actual fact of spiritual reality. Well, as usual, that's about all the time I have left, so we'll be back with more on next week on how intelligence enters life. Be sure and hang around for that one. I'm Burt Wilson. Thank you very much for watching.